I think this is probably the most important design book to come out this year, or maybe ever. That's a little exaggeration, but it's a very, very key design book in American design and all design. It's by Todd Oldham and Kira Coffey. As you can see, it's a massive book. It's over 15 pounds. It's incredible because the research and pulling together of all of Alexander Girard's work is in one volume, and I think people aren't really aware of who he is and how important Alexander Girard is in American design. He absorbed the world and gave it back to us in his vision, which is an extraordinary thing to do. He designed textiles for Knoll. He designed tabletop. He designed houses. He designed everything. It's a masterpiece, this book. I think that, you know, it's a book that doesn't come along very often, and the time to research it and the care is something that is incredibly special.
Design with the Other 90% Cities is actually a catalog for an exhibition organized by the Cooper-Hewitt. It is the second part of a show that they had a couple of years ago to show that design is not just a luxury practice, that it really has a role to play in improving the lives of people who have nothing or very little. And we're talking about problems like millions of people living crammed into a small area with no access to electricity, to water, to sewage. We shouldn't think that these design solutions are the same as policy solutions or infusions of money or government action. But on the other hand, doing something at the governmental level without intelligent design can be just as disastrous as the other way around.
I chose Lisa Imordino Vreeland's book, Diana Vreeland, The Eye Has to Travel. It is a fantastic book that brings together all of Diana Vreeland's work for Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, but it also gives you a great sense of the woman. Diana Vreeland, as brilliant and as magnetic as she was, she's also a very elusive talent because people don't quite know, what did Diana Vreeland do? Well, it was what she did to revolutionize fashion and fashion magazines. But as a woman who invented herself and invented her life, for me, that's the most fascinating part, because from that comes all of the blooms in her life. I'm particularly interested in people's houses and how their houses reflect their personalities, and how a house is really a sort of psychological map and a landscape of somebody's passions. So for me, it's very interesting to note, first of all, the end papers are Diana Vreeland's office at Vogue. And I just think this is the most fantastic photograph because it shows a woman who is in control of everything that she can be in control of. It's her life at Vogue, it's her world. Her walls are just covered with the photographs that inspire her. I love the fact that this is a woman in control of her life.
Well, I actually want to talk about the two David Adjaye books together because I think it really shows two sides of a very interesting practice. One is David Adjaye, A House for an Art Collector, which is an investigation of this one house, really one of the more advanced and extreme house designs in New York. The house was built as an exhibition space as well as a living space. And of course, it's a very high-end luxury thing that hides behind a landmarked facade on the Upper East Side. The way he uses light, it's a very narrow lot, so he's got to bring light in from above. So there are a lot of skylights, and divide up a very deep but narrow, typical New York house space in interesting ways. The other side is this enormous set of volumes called African Metropolitan Architecture. That's really a collection of David Adjaye's photographs, snapshots really, from his travels all around Africa. One of the more interesting sections, I thought, was these photographs of Tripoli, which actually shows it to be, in some ways, quite a beautiful city. And one of the appealing things about this book is how ugliness and beauty really combine, and how dilapidated some of the beautiful buildings are, but how they retain a kind of integrity. So you get, in the House for an Art Collector, this really in-depth look at one interior space, and then with the African metropolitan architecture, a really broad sense of a whole continent.